powered by Early Ball, the colors of rock and roll.
All right, welcome to the Guitar Podcast Room. Once again, one of my favorite interview partners of all time, the great Joe Bonamassa. And we don't only talk about gear today, we have a new album from Joe we have to talk about, and it's called Time Clock. So we have to be fast because Joe has to go to a great show of his friends in the Dead Daisies. And
when this airs, I mean, the Dead Daisies are playing New York City tonight, and that's I was saying to you earlier, the one and only good thing about social media is that sometimes when your friends are playing in town, you go, oh, I'm gonna come bug you, So of course I ask for a free ticket and a pass. So I am that guy, that people go, oh, I don't want to be that guy. No, you are that guy. If you say the words.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't mean to be that guy. You are the guy who can afford a ticket, but chose to ping somebody in the band for a free one. And that was me this afternoon, about a half hour ago.
Great. And I think you will have fun because your friend Glenn Hughes plays in the band, and this is a total cool band, man.
I know Glenn and Doug, I'm not sure who's playing. I'm familiar with everybody, but I mostly know Glenn and Doug. It'd be nice to see everyone because very rarely do we get out. I don't go out much, but it's Monday night and I'm bored. And I mean, again, to see Glenn is always a treat. And the fact that he's playing 15 blocks from me, I have no excuse. Get out and see that. That's the one thing. Is if you could say one thing to yourself, get out and see, especially the heritage acts, when you can, because there's going to be a time when you can't, and then you'll be like, one of my good friends, a guy who worked for me, he's a photographer, and he had photo passes, and he had photo passes and an assignment. For a concert that was headlined by Eric Clapton with special guests Robert Cray, Jimmy Vaughn, and Stevie Ray Vaughan at this venue called Alpine Valley. And he goes, you know what? He gave the photo pass to a friend of his, like, I'll catch Stevie the next time because I'd rather shoot him in wherever, Chicago, it's better lighting and stuff like that. And we all know what happened. Yeah. So, it's that kind of mentality. I'm not trying to be morbid, but if you think about it in those terms, think about it in terms of ZZ Top, think about it in terms of the Rolling Stones. You know what I mean? So we're getting to that stage with a lot of our favorite musical heroes that you got to go see them while you can. There really are legacy tours. They used to joke about it. Well, these are legacy acts, heritage acts. No, these are traveling legacies that you're witnessing.
Absolutely, and you're going on tour in the United States. I think in October, and it will be your first full-length tour since pandemic started, or?
We did 9 shows in August. That went great. We did some socially distanced stuff in May, so we did 5, 9, and now it'll be 32 by the time it was all said and done, if we do them. I mean, again, it's like we're still in this, who knows, stage. There's a lot of acts pulling out. There's a lot of acts trying to stay in as long as they can. It's just very, very difficult to navigate both the COVID thing, regulations, and demand at the moment. So we'll see.
I watched the news before our conversation here over Zoom, and a new thing: there is no travel ban. They announced that Europeans and especially Germans can travel to America again. Right. So your fans can go to the shows, but on the other side, you have announced a European tour for 2022.
Yeah, I have a few friends. I have a friend in London. She's like, oh, I really miss. I can't believe the government won't let me in. I'm like, why do you want to come anyway? It's horrible here right now. It's horrible. We got to get some brooms out and clean this place up a little bit. There's shit on the streets.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think you're slowly starting to see a rollout where it's going to get back to normal, and I think there's going to be a point where collectively we acquiesce to the point that we're going to live with this thing for probably a foreseeable future, if not generation. And that's the reality. So prevention and if you do get it, how to mitigate the symptoms to the point where you don't end up in a hospital. That's going to be the real key to us in the music business being able to roll out in the future. Because people still get the flu, people still get malaria, people still get that. There's no way you can totally eradicate it. So you're going to have to live with it and mitigate it as best you can. And obviously, if it's the same rules apply. If I had a head cold and I was supposed to go to a dinner party and sit next to a bunch of people, I'm like, I don't feel so good. I don't want to get you sick today. If you don't feel good, stay home.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the reality of life. That's just being courteous and using some common sense, which, again, they've tried to mitigate that as well.
Yeah, but I hope the best, but I'm totally with you. That the COVID-19 thing, will stay for a long time. With all the mutations and that stuff. So we have to live with it, and we have to find a way to go out, to go to concerts, and of course, even for the smaller musicians or the independent bands, that they can go out and make a living again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's why we worked so tirelessly last year, and we raised over $500,000 for acts that had the carpet ripped out from underneath them, and it was so funny. I remember watching an ad for it was in England, it was in the UK, and they had a dancer or some artist. And they're like, maybe it's time to find something else. It's like, oh, okay. So you think what we do is a hobby. And that's pretty much the prevailing narrative was like, well, you kids have had a good run. Now it's time to go pack boxes and work for Amazon like everybody else. And it's like, that's not fair, because everybody dedicates their life to this thing. And in any strata of success, they dedicate their life to it. And the people who struggle the hardest are the ones that just are maybe famous enough to get to make decent money, but because of all the bills and the travel and everything else like that, they're not able to save anything. So when the shutdown hit, there's no emergency fund, and I knew a lot of people like that, because again, it's just how do you navigate through that, and how do you ever predict a complete industry-wide shutdown?
Yeah, this is thing, a lot of question marks in my head, and I think with you and all your pals in the music business. But life goes on with COVID, and of course, we changed now the topic from this uncertain COVID thing to time clocks, because this is a great thing, and we can have fun at home, even if there's another lockdown, because we got 10 great cuts again from you, 9 full songs, 1 intro, and
it was a record we made in New York, and we did it originally as a 3-piece record, but then it turned out to be probably the most ambitious thing we've done in a while. And it was one of those things where there was no plan for what it was going to be. I just had some songs. And we went into the studio. My producer, Kevin Shirley, was in Australia. So we're on Zoom recording this interview. We were on Zoom. We worked out the hours. So we would start at like noon or 12:30. And he would start at 2:30 in the morning in Sydney. And then he had access to the bus mixes from the console. So he was hearing what we were hearing in the headphones, making assessments off of that. I wouldn't do it that way by choice, but without having a choice, that's how we did it. And once we got our head around the workflow, it seemed like any normal session, except Kevin was on a TV screen, and there was no post, recording martinis, and that's always a plus. That's always a nice jam at the end of the day. Arguably the best jam of the day. And so yeah, that's how we did it, and I'm proud of it. I think it came out good, and I think people are going to enjoy it. And I'm also excited to get out and play some of these songs live and see how see how they shake out and how people enjoy the gig. And yeah, we're gonna do the best we can.
So how did the creative process differ this time? Because with Royalty, you worked in London. Now this is a New York record. What's for you the difference, in creating music in these two environments?
I would say this: the beauty of home recording is that it's cheap and it sounds great. So you could set up your rig, you make record after record after record in your house. This is great. I know a lot of people do it that way. One of the things, though, you don't get with a home recording situation is the sound of the locality. The sound of the locality does not seep in to your music. You get you're like, okay, I live in the studio. The studio is the spare bedroom in my house, or I built a garage in the back. When you go to London, when you go to Greece, when you go to Abbey Road, you go to Nashville, there's something about being there that brings a thing to the table into the sound. And I'm always a fan of doing stuff like that, because it also gives you this journeyman sonic quality to it that you never would have gotten if you just stayed in the same studio. Be like, yeah, I can make the same Royalty record, but we could have done it in Nashville or LA where I live, and no problem. It would sound different. Being in London, going to the studio every day, walking through Abbey Road, being at its different set of power, everything adds up collectively. And maybe it doesn't move the needle 50%. It definitely moves the needle 10, 15%, and that's enough for me. And maybe you come up with a song like the song Royalty. If it wasn't for Piers Morgan shouting into a camera after Harry and Meghan left the band, quote unquote, okay, because I was up that morning. We were last couple of days of writing for the record, and I was like, and here's Piers, he's like shouting into the camera. He goes, "Royalty this, Royalty that." I go, "That's a song," and if I wasn't there, you know what I mean? You're collectively taking it all in like a sponge, and sometimes it's a good thing.
So what you're saying is the environment is kind of one of those secret instruments, that you don't hear in the first place, but it's always there sound wise, and the vibe you suck in from the environment where you're recording.
Absolutely, 100%. And if you don't at least try, then you'll never know. You'll never know how it's going to be perceived.
So what's totally interesting about Time Clocks is, in my opinion, it's your most versatile record to date, because I hear so many different stuff on this record. I got and quotes. I heard some Led Zeppelin quotes. I heard some Dire Straits quotes. I heard some Clapton quotes on that one. And you got country music influences in it. You got blues. You got classic rock. It's such a round thing. How did you create these 9 songs and the intro?
Well, the reality of it is the songs are done on acoustic guitar. Most of them written in this room, and the thing is once we started putting these things down, there was a case that it just kind of wrote itself, and it just wrote itself, and it became this ambitious project, because it was like, okay, well, let's put strings on this, let's do background singers, let's do this, and all of a sudden it became big and bombastic, but full of these little nuggets of inspiration. And I like that. That to me is a good thing, because ultimately you end up, it doesn't sound like it's repeating itself, but it's still cohesive, That's a tough thing to do on a record, especially now with, people have limited attention spans. So you don't have to put 14 songs on a record. 9 will do, Some of my favorite records are 7, 8 songs.
Yeah.
It's like back in the day when it used to fit on one vinyl. I don't think any of my records now fit on one vinyl because they're all longer than an hour or 45 minutes.
But I have to dig a bit deeper because I don't know if it was 2017 or 18 or before that you said to me you hate playing acoustic guitar and you don't like to play acoustic guitar. Now you write a whole album on acoustic guitar. What happened with you?
Well, there was a lot of acoustic guitar on the record. I did write the record. I did write the record on half electric, half acoustic. The thing about acoustic guitars, there's me who owns them. I play occasional acoustic guitar on record, maybe with an occasional tour. Live down the street from Carnegie Hall here, and then there's Tommy Emmanuel, who owns the acoustic guitar. Okay, I own them. He owns the medium. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. There's acoustic players like Andy McKee and Tommy, Steve Stills, Al Di Meola, list goes on and on. Doc Watson, they own it. I look at it and go, there's no pickups in here, and it doesn't plug into anything. What am I supposed to do? So it's kind of the same way as I look at slide guitar. I could play it, but it's not my default setting on. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing my out of tune slide playing on this song. Can't wait to contribute my out of tune slide playing, and same thing I look at as an acoustic guitar. I'd be like, I can't wait to contribute a plunky, overplayed solo on an acoustic guitar on this song, as opposed to give me a Les Paul or a Tele, and then I'll be like, I know exactly what to do. It's a different school. It's the same 6 strings, completely different world. And then if you throw in the flamenco guys, which that's completely different world from everybody else as well. Same 6 strings, completely different way of looking at it. So I don't hate acoustic guitars. I'm just not very good at it. So I stay away from
it. You mentioned Doc Watson, and this is something I've seen a few months ago, and I won't believe it when I saw it on YouTube. You sold a 70s Gallagher Doc Watson to Norm Harris. Besides some other guitars, what happened? Yeah. Did you start selling guitars and not only buying guitars?
Well, Norm likes to trade. He likes to trade stuff I used on the gig. That particular Doc Watson I used at Carnegie Hall and on the DVD. And honestly, that guitar had been sitting in my storage locker since, guess what? Carnegie Hall. And I think Norm had at that point, I mean, I bought so much stuff from Norm. I think Norm had a nice 335 or something, like a PAF equipped 335 from the 63 cherry red Clapton spec. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a lot more use out of this 335 than this Gallagher Doc Watson guitar, which is a fine instrument that's been sitting in my storage since Carnegie Hall. So, every once in a while, every year I try to take 10% of the collection down because you have to make room for some more, and B, you have to make an assessment going, I'm never going to get to this stuff. I'm never going to play it. So these things are just hanging around as like holy relics, and that's the thing. It's like, if you haven't played it for 5 years, 6 years, time to go. It's time to go.
But on the other side, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the Songbird Guitar Museum closed this year. Wouldn't be this a great chance for you to present your guitars to the public in a museum, because you have such a great collection of historic American electric guitars and amps. I think you're one of the most important curators in the world for this.
They were one of the best ever. And probably one of the best that's ever been assembled. But that's 25 years of a blank check, and I get it. Songbirds didn't close. They restructured the foundation. Everything went to a charity, a foundation. So they redid the museum. Now it's more artist central, meaning like, here's Minnie Pearl's Martin or something like that, and there's a picture of Minnie, and and it's a celebration of American music. They have a Dumble down there. It's a more what do they call it? Interactive experience. So you could press a button, and it's like, I don't work for them, but I'm just from what I've seen. You press a button, here's what a fuzz face sounds like, and I think Andy Wood did some of the demos on that. Matter of fact, I know that because he asked me if the Dumble settings were mine, and I said, shoot me a picture. I go, yeah, that's where I left it. And they house the Manny sign from 48th Street that I own, that I purchased or was given almost 10 years ago and restored. So, but as far as, I have a lot of guitars that don't see the light of day, but they could see the light of day at any moment. Some of them don't deserve to see the light of day because they're so preserved. They're so mint, and preserved, that what ego would I have if I'm like, I'm just going to take it out and beat it up and put scratches all over it and it'll be cooler because I did it. No, it's wrong. That's completely wrong. Do you sit at home, enjoy it, play it? Yeah, absolutely. Do you take it out in battle conditions when you're fortunate enough to have more where that came from? Yeah. No, you
don't. If you're talking about Dumbles, is this? I just see a little piece of the amp behind you. Is this a Dumble?
This is a Dumble. Yeah, I bought this from a guy in Boston. Mm-hmm. Here's part of the original shipping box. You'll love this. All the receipts. I just happen to have it on my kitchen table.
Wow, the original?
Original receipt from May 5th, 1979. Wow. I would have been just about 2 years old when this amp shipped. So I'll keep his name out of it. And take a wild guess what the head was. How much because it's an overdrive special, non-master volume, 50-watt head with a 2x12 speaker cabinet with Altec speakers. That's the spec sheet, and it's all original. So there's original tubes in this one. Take a wild guess.
I would say around $120,000.
You mean now, or take a wild guess about how much it would cost? How much did Dumble charge for the amps back 40?
So this is what you ask. I think what he charged back in the day. I think $2,000 or $1,500 back in the day. And
okay, you're pretty close on both sides of the coin. The head was $990.
Oh, okay.
The speaker cabinet was $395 unloaded. The Altec speakers were $208 a piece, coming to $416. He added astutely a 23% discount for Altec speakers. The whole mess in 1979 came to $1,705.02.
Okay. Then I was really close. Was it 1,500?
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't cheap, and it got original correspondence letter. It's the most complete Dumble amp set I've ever seen. So rare do you get them with the correspondence. It's almost like a Tony Zamitis guitar. You know what I mean? Like Tony would actually write you the letter when you'd order the guitar. Dumble would. This is before internet and email. You'd actually sit down and type out a letter, stick it in the mail. You get the letter, you call or whatever. Seems very primitive, the communication, but it's actually that's how it works.
And was my guess what it costs right now? Was this close, or was I too low? Or do you want to say this?
The amp is insured, without going into what it cost me, which I paid him a lot of money for. The amp is insured for $125,000, everything, which is insane.
Yeah.
It's completely insane for an amp. but it's also insane to think about the prices of a lot of things. So this isn't new. This isn't new for any part of the business, that these are different, Yeah. So yeah. And so, I mean, like the Dumble thing is, I like them. I use them live. I'm actually going to bring this amp to a friend of mine's gig on Wednesday night, and Jambo. So, but I'm just going to bring the head because they have a cabinet.
Yeah.
It's New York subway,
Yeah, but on the other side, if you buy a sports car, I think the Dumble set you bought for this money, has massively historic value, and you can't crash it on the street. So that's the advantage of buying the Dumble instead of a sports car.
Well, I mean, you can also buy a twin and put a tube in front of it and have it sound pretty close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you don't have to spend. That's the thing. It's like, well, no, you need the Dumble. You need the thing. Yeah. Do they do special things? Absolutely. Do they do things that no other amp can do? Absolutely, 100%. Is that thing for everyone? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's for people with a light. Generally, they're amps for people that have a light touch, and so they're kind of voiced that way. If there's some people that plug into Dumbles, this doesn't do anything for me. Fair enough. Yeah. First one I ever heard, I was like, this doesn't do anything for me. Thought it was harsh and clean. Mm-hmm. But then you get your head around it and go, no, they do a certain thing, especially in the mid-range.
Because every Dumble sounds different, or the new, not two Dumbles that sound the same.
No, I mean, I've owned 9 in my life. I have 4. And every single Dumble I've ever plugged into, and I know a friend who's got a collection of like 25, crazy. And every single Dumble amp I've ever plugged into sounds completely different from the next. Yeah. That's when they sell you the whole thing. It's like, well, this pedal is a Dumble clone, or this amp is a Dumble. It's like, well, which one? Because there's some that were voiced for jazz guys. There were some that were like voiced like Larry Carlton's or Robin Ford's. And then there's some that are super high gain that almost sound like Soldanos. So which one? It just depends on who it was built for, because they were all built for someone. Just kind of like Zemitis guitars. They were all specced out differently, for people.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to time clocks, because I think the fans want to hear something new about the album. Mm-hmm. so the thing what I think what's really interesting since you last 4 records is the fact that there are no cover songs on albums, and you only do originals. What happened? Are you even more creative since back in the day where you put some cover songs on this, or do you have a bigger output, or what's the reason for this? I love it, and I think everybody out there loves it too, because we get more Bonamassa songs.
Yeah, I mean, and I think put it into work, to make an all original record. We started in like 2016, 2015. I think it was like Blues of Desperation. It was like, we're going to make an all original record. And then I just kind of forced myself to do it. Now I don't even look back at the times when we didn't do it. But, without kind of trying to mine some cover songs to do and make them your own, we wouldn't have had Slow Gin. We wouldn't have had a few of these things that we still play. Jockey Full of Bourbon, still play that song, and so that's the whole thing, so there's been some great cover versions of like some of my favorite records that have been made are chock full of cover songs. I mean, Jeff Beck Ola I think it's got 2 Elvis tunes. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's in a piano solo. It's like, okay, but then it also has Plint, and just crazy good stuff on there. So it doesn't matter. I don't think anybody really fixates on the fine print. I think it's just they fixate on the quality. But if you can write them and they come out good, then that even the better. So
do you write a certain amount of songs for records nowadays, or because you said people don't have the attention for 14 or 15 songs on an album. So you say, hey, I need, for example, for this like eight new songs and an instrumental, an intro, or stuff like that. Or do you write a bulk of songs and then say, hey, I pick about?
There's always more. There's always more than what makes it. So there's always more. And then you just go like, well, it's a long record. Each song is 6.5, 7 minutes. So to me, that's, so there's only 9 songs on the record, but they're 9 long songs. So, and then there's, records. I don't know if anybody ever, it just depends on the record that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
If you have all short songs, and you have a lot to say, sure, you put 12, 13 on there, but generally 9, 10, 11, that's, you can get your point across like that.
So do you have kind of an archive for the unused songs, or?
I mean, Time Clocks was an unused song from Abbey Road.
Hmm.
And so that was an unused song. So it just didn't fit Abbey Road's record, but it fit this one better than if we just jammed it on Abbey Road. And so, that was the thing. And it never occurs to you until, you cut the songs at the right song at the right time.
Okay. From the new album, we picked 4 songs for play-alongs in the magazine, and they are transcribed and stuff.
Okay.
Will be played for the play-alongs by the great Cons Fischer here at Guitar Magazine. It's the first one. It's not just because you double your guitar with sitar sound. How you did that?
It's actually a 12-string.
Ah, okay.
That's actually a Rickenbacker 12-string. So, and I think there's a sitar tucked in there somewhere, but I don't play sitar, nor did I. I think that was the beauty of some sound manipulation from Kevin, where he took one of the 12-string tracks and made it sound like a sitar.
Okay.
But that's because the whole record was written. That whole song was written because I wanted to do like an Ali Farka Touré Moroccan-inspired riff, and Charlie Starr and I we wrote that song together, and he had the line, "I got miles under my wheels, notches in my walking hand." I go, if that doesn't say everything that I need to say, right then and there, I go, perfect. So we did it.
So then we have questions and answers. We picked it because of the feeling of the whole song. How was it for you to create this song, and because it's kind of easy and it's got this really cool vibe?
Well, it's like having an argument with your girlfriend in song. It's like, kind of says it all.
Yeah.
Just ask the question, you have the answers, and I just like the fact that it's heavy and then it goes into this kind of reggae. It's a fun song to play. It's definitely going to be I think a star for us.
We got also Mind's Eye because of the intro solo. Because this one got this I would say it's really stripped down, but it also got this great Bonamassa vibe in it.
Well, that's part of the acoustic equation again. It's like it's kind of starts acoustic and then brings up to a big chorus. But that's the beauty of having a band that can go anywhere with you, at the moment's notice. So I'm happy with the way that came out.
So last but not least, the loyal kind. The pick was because of the effective chorus we have there. The totally in.
That was another one that was left over from Royalty and Abbey Road. I wrote that with Bernie, and it's just that's Bernie and I wrote that at Abbey Road for Royalty, and we never got around to using it until this one here. So
at this point, we go back to equipment, and of course, one of our favorite topics, is which amps do you use on time clocks? Because I think you got such a wide array of amps. Isn't it hard to pick them?
Well, honestly, it was, truth be told, it was only 2 deluxes for the most part.
Really?
Brown deluxe and a blackface deluxe for the whole record. Because the part of what I wanted to do in the New York record, or at least the experiment, was going back 20 years when I first lived here in the early 2000s, was you only went to sessions with what you got. It's like what you can fit into a cab or a subway. I wasn't bringing crates and crates of shit to a studio. So I was like, well, I have 2 deluxes in my apartment, and one sounds X, one sounds Y. Let's blend them together. There was a Joe Bonamassa twin that I had sent up from our fulfillment company. It's actually sold to some guy, and then I got in front of it. And so I used that. Those are the only 3 amps I used on the whole record. The twin is more you hear for the bigger, thicker solos, and the deluxes do the more jangly stuff. But the thing about that is we didn't have a large space to deal with. So the thing about guitars is, in guitar amps, is if you put a small champ in a small room, it's going to sound loud. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you put a champ in the middle of the stage at the Royal Albert Hall, it's going to sound anemic. Mm-hmm. It's power versus space. So you can mic, if you throw the champ in a closet and mic it, and it's like, oh wow, it just sounds big because it's enveloping the room. So you have to use the right amount of power. So if you want this big thing to happen, so you kind of choose stuff that's relevant to the size of room that you have.
If I remember this right, Joanne Connor, when you produced her record, I think these 2 amps she used also in the studio, or?
No, she used, we did that in Nashville. So she used predominantly my 55 Tweed Deluxe that had been brush painted black, that has a Celestion in it from the early 70s. That thing shouldn't be running, but Joanne Connor used it for the whole record. Joanne Shaw Taylor just got done using it for the whole record. Can't kill a thing, okay? It's got mismatched tubes in it. It just keeps going. And generally, if I'm in Nashville recording, there's always going to be a 210 vibroverb, Fender vibroverb involved. It's just my favorite overall Fender amp. It just does everything. It does the great clean Fender thing, but it also, when you get it up past 7, it just barks, and you're just going, okay, it really is a perfect recording amp for me. I can only say it for me.
So it's, I think, when it comes down then to guitars to pick, when I wrote down these questions for the interview, it's and you have a collection about 400 guitars or so. It would drive me crazy to pick guitars for a record, because I wouldn't have some overview which guitar would sound best on this or that, or do you do it
well, purpose? I mean, I don't keep a huge footprint here. As far as gear, there was a Les Paul, there was a Strat, there was a maple neck Strat, a rosewood neck Strat, a Tele. No, it was an Esquire. It was an Esquire and an acoustic guitar, a Martin. And that's it, pretty much, and a 335, which I don't even think I used, maybe for one song, one solo. So, I was toting the line. It's like, well, we need a humbucking, need a Tele, need a Strat, need an acoustic, and then there was a Rickenbacker 12-string. So, and I think on the intro I used the baritone on the intro is the foam green bass 6 that was in the movie Spinal Tap. It's the one you weren't allowed to touch or even look at. So that's an interesting story.
So when we look at your pedal board for this one, we know your pedal board which you use live, where you got some Dunlops over the place, and the MXRs, the way huges and stuff. But what do you take out for recording them? Because I think you have some treasures at home, you know, that you don't take out on the road. And
No, there's
studio.
This was pretty straightforward. I mean, there was a wah. I don't even think I used it. It was in line.
Yeah.
The clon, which I don't think I maybe turned on a couple of times. Clons are good because you fuck with the EQ. The sweep on the tone is incredible, and so you can keep the gain and volume at parity and really dial in the EQ without boosting anything. You're just giving it a nudge at 200 or 300 hertz. It just gives you this fat thing going on. And I used a penny saver, one of those penny saver things they built for me, which is basically a boost and a wobbly chorus. And that's it. No reverb tank. The reverb came from the Deluxe. And a lot of times I was just, plugging straight in to the Twin if I was using the Twin for solos, and I would just set the gain, and we would put a little outboard reverb on it in the control room and be like, that's the tone. So you use the room mics and everything. But the Twin was so loud that it would envelop the small room or the studio, and so you can get that kind of hump on the bottom end, and it sounds, it just sounds bigger. It's because you're putting a lot of SPL into a small room.
But it's a real down to earth setup, I think, for recordings. It's even like you played it live, or?
Well, yeah, it's more than you need.
Yeah.
It's like some of your favorite records were done with a Deluxe. Steve Cropper used a Harvard, a guitar, and a killer song. So it just depends, but since the record was so extreme as far as what we were doing musically, you had to cover some of the bases, I didn't find myself wanting for anything. I didn't say, oh man, I really wish I had, it was pretty much all there.
Yeah, the thing is, I just before I dialed in, I just looked at your online store, and since our last interview in last year, it becomes massively. Do you have a mega warehouse where all this stuff,
well, yeah, all this stuff comes out of Iowa.
Oh, okay.
And a company called Broken Arrow does our fulfillment. So apparently, I've never been out there, but apparently there's like a whole wing of the warehouse that's just ours. So you do.
So not only one of the best or the greatest blues guitar player, like our colleagues from Guitar World said, and I think I can sign this.
Oh, it's just better than me. I mean, I have a thing, but it's not anything special. But as far as merchandise, I probably got you beat. We have everything.
Yeah, but your warehouse, when I see this, I think you become one of the big players in the future for online shopping or online stores in puncto music, or?
Yeah, I should start selling like canned goods, hard to find items.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Joe. We got one last thing to wrap it up with you. Because it's always a pleasure to talk to you, but our readers are always interested in what's the hottest thing, in your guitar collection. What you buy in 2021?
What's the hardest thing to buy, or?
Oh no, the hottest. Your favorite part.
This year I filled in a lot of gaps. In the last I would say year and a half, I filled in a lot of gaps in the collection. Like probably the coolest thing I bought this year was a 41 pre-war Martin 00045 from the original owner's family. Went from grandfather to father to son. Son dies. The thing is 80 years old. Remains in mint condition, and then this woman in the last ditch effort to save her house in Southern California, walks it into a Guitar Center in Costa Mesa. And when I tell you that this thing is the cleanest Martin I've ever seen from that era, I'm not joking. That was a pretty cool thing. What else did I get? I got a really nice, well, that Dumble I showed you was a fun connection, original owner. So I'm only going after stuff that I didn't have in the collection or special items. I don't have any room left. It's over, and to be honest with you, with guitar collecting, it's become like too much of an Instagram thing where it's like, oh, look what I found. Yeah, and it's cool sharing the stories, but then it slightly feels competitive now, and that's not why I do it. That's not why. It's, oh, look at this, oh, look at that. It's like, we're all good guitar hunters, and we all have our certain things that we like, but you get people that taunt you, it's like, oh, I beat you to this. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't find the Tommy Bolin guitar. I did, it's like, you can taunt me all you want. You didn't drive up to fucking Utah, I either did I. My friend Rick did, but I'm just saying. But the thing is, it's not a competition. It's not a competition, but it's felt like it. So, you know what? The best guitar you have is the one that's in your hand in tune. That's it. Doesn't matter what it is, how much it cost you, because they were $100 at one point. Every single one.
Yeah,
all these old.
But I think you do this because you love this, and love the instruments and the history and the stuff. And I don't ever thought that you do it to come in a competition or something like that, or just to show the people, hey, I got the biggest collection of Fender amps or something like this.
I do it. I like to share. I like to share the knowledge. There's a community of people that I've learned. I've gotten introduced to, online forums and stuff like that. That become really good friends of mine. And that's the kind of community that I like. It's when it be like anything in this world, anything fun and pure that starts out fun and pure gets I think the word is obfuscated, or at least compromised, and it becomes ego driven, and I'm like, oh, God, really, over a guitar? It's a guitar in a brown case. Okay, let's get over it.
But that's the magic when you open the case. This is just for us addicts, music addicts, guitar addicts. This is just the thing when you open this Gibson case, and you smell the lacquer and the stuff, and Fender has its own smell. I think this is the thing, before you even touch the guitar, they have you with this. It's in my case.
It's the known unknown. It's the one. It's like you see the case, you're like, well, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I don't know what's going to come out, and that's the most exciting time is when you hit the latches and you just about to see it. And by the way, the smell of old guitars is not the guitars themselves; it's the cases.
It's only the case.
The case has the smell, and it gets into the guitar, not the other way around.
Oh, okay.
Because I've had, when I travel with old guitars, they travel in other cases for the road, and at every point in time when we come off the road, I put the road guitars back in the original cases because they get their smell back. It's the case, the musty old.
This is really something, every time we talk to each other, I learn something new from you. This is always very educational for me.
All right, man, I gotta run.
Have a nice day.
I'll see you soon.
Powered by Early Ball, the colors of rock and roll.